Hi, Mystery Recapped here. Today I'll be breaking down a chilling horror mystery movie called The Vault. Spoilers ahead, watch carefully. The story begins inside the kitchen of Centurion Trust Bank, where assistant manager Ed Mass pours himself a cup of coffee. But his mind is haunted. He flinches as flashes of gunfire and chaos flood his memory. Shaking it off, Ed steels himself for another busy day. As he steps into the main hall, Detective Iger walks in too, depositing his salary before heading back out. Everything appears calm: guards on duty, clerks handling papers, customers waiting quietly. The only disturbance? Sirens wailing outside from a massive fire at a nearby factory. Meanwhile, the bank manager sits down with a young woman named Leah for a job interview. She's applying for the teller position. Her resume looks solid, but there's a mysterious gap in her employment history. Leah explains she spent time abroad, teaching English to children in Mexico, only to return after a relative fell ill. She insists she's eager to work again. But while the interview continues, trouble brews in the main hall. A woman with a teardrop tattoo begins shouting, causing a scene. A tired teller tries calming her, but the woman lashes out, yelling about illegal bank penalties. Unaware of the commotion, the manager casually confides to Leah that 3 tellers recently quit. Some even claim the bank was haunted. As he says this, head teller Susan Cromwell confronts the disruptive visitor, pointing out she's not even a client. Then, everything flips. 3 firefighters suddenly march into the bank and lock the doors from the inside. Leah gives a subtle nod to the angry visitor, and in an instant the woman attacks a guard, slamming him to the floor. Customers gasp in shock as Leah whips out a gun, snarling at Ed to cooperate or she'd blow his head off. The robbery has begun, but the guard stationed by the main doors only sees the chaos as a customer lashing out. He radios authorities, downplaying it as a minor disturbance. Rushing over to help, he's blindsided, knocked out cold by one of the firefighters. The other 2 quickly bag the hostages' heads and seize control. The disruptive woman reveals herself as Vilia's sister. She collects everyone's phones while another robber, Cyrus, sprays black paint over the security cameras. The 3rd firefighter, Michael, forces the remaining guard to assure police that everything is fine. But outside, Detective Iger senses something's off. Driving nearby, his radio crackles with a faint, garbled voice, a terrified man begging for help, warning that a robbery is happening inside Centurion Trust Bank. Back inside, the robbers make their move. Kramer, the ringleader in firefighter gear, demands the tellers open the vault. Nervous and trembling, they finally comply. Meanwhile, panic spreads across the hall. The bank manager seizes a chance to escape, but he's quickly shot in the knee. Screaming in agony, he collapses. Michael, shaken by the brutality, tears off his mask, rushes to stop the bleeding, and whispers apologies to the man. Unlike the others, it's clear he doesn't want blood on his hands. Back in the vault, Susan finally cracks open the massive safe, but everyone freezes when they see what's inside. The drawers hold only a pitiful stack of bills. Kramer storms out in rage, shouting that there's just $70,000 in the entire thing. The room falls silent. The robbers have risked their lives, drawn blood, and terrorized dozens, only for pocket change compared to what they expected. Leah urges everyone to cut their losses and run, but V refuses to walk away empty-handed. The others back her up, tension rising. Just then, a muffled voice speaks up from the hostages. The man introduces himself as the assistant manager and calmly claims he knows the bank inside and out. To prove he's serious, he points out the location of the emergency alarm button and explains that if the transaction database ISNT confirmed with the manager's PIN, the system will trigger the alarm. He offers the robbers a deal: let him help, and no one else has to get hurt. V, sweating and desperate, tears the bag off his head, revealing none other than Ed Mass, the man we saw earlier. Ed wastes no time. He disables the alarm and then dangles a new temptation. He tells them of an old vault built 60 to 70 years ago, buried deep in the basement. According to him, it holds $6 million in cash. He even hands over the keys to the basement door. The promise of millions is too much to resist. V and Kramer immediately head downstairs to find it. while the others monitor their progress through the cameras. They plan for Michael to join later. His job is to cut into the sewage pipeline, creating a secret escape tunnel. For now, Leah escorts Ed to a private office where she can watch everything unfold on the surveillance monitors. In the basement, V and Kramer reach the heavy, ancient vault door, fitted with thick wheel locks. Kramer mutters it will take him at least 20 minutes to break through. V shrugs and wanders deeper into the basement while Kramer gets to work. Upstairs, Michael shoves the hostages into the newer vault and keeps guard. The silence is suffocating until Susan, the head teller, breaks it, pleading to use the restroom. Reluctantly, Michael escorts her. Meanwhile, Kramer sweats as he works the old vault's steel wheels. Sparks fly as the metal begins to yield. V, exploring nearby storage rooms, stiffens in terror. She swears she sees a shadowy, human-shaped figure lingering in the dark. Back upstairs, Leah checks the monitors and scolds Michael when she sees him escorting Susan. She snaps at him to stick to the plan. Nervous and shaken, Michael escorts Susan back, then reluctantly heads downstairs to start cutting into the pipeline. On his way, he meets V, who looks pale and rattled. She whispers that she saw something in the basement, a presence that shouldn't be there. Without explaining further, she hurries back upstairs, leaving Michael alone in the depths. Back in the hall, Cyrus takes over, guarding the hostages while Leah and V keep an eye on Kramer. The cameras show him making progress. The vault door is nearly open. But then the lights flicker violently before cutting out completely. Kramer freezes, staring down the dim corridor. And then he sees them. Two filthy figures, their heads wrapped in grimy sacks, standing silently in the darkness. As the lights stutter back to life, their number multiplies. More and more figures appear, lining the corridor, twitching as the flickering grows unbearable. In the basement, Kramer's nightmare begins. On the monitors, Leah and V see only him fumbling for his weapon, looking terrified. Then, before their eyes, he's yanked into an old storage room. The sisters freeze in horror as his muffled screams echo through the speakers. Nearby, Michael hears the same blood-curdling cries echoing through the dark. Upstairs, Leah panics and orders Cyrus to count the hostages. But just then, the lights flicker violently, and the door of the new vault slams shut with a deafening bang. Cyrus and all the captives are now trapped inside. Almost at the same moment, the heavy basement door in the main hall locks by itself, as if the entire building is alive. Inside the vault, Cyrus senses something is horribly wrong. Among the terrified hostages, he spots a figure in a white mask staring at him. Trembling, he raises his shotgun, but in seconds, the room fills with more captives in filthy bags, appearing out of nowhere. They swarm toward him. The masked figure grabs his weapon and shoves the barrel into Cyrus' mouth, forcing him to choke on his own fear. Meanwhile, in the basement, shadowy figures repeatedly stab Kramer, his screams growing weaker. The lights suddenly return upstairs. V manages to pry open the basement door, but Leah rushes to check the new vault. What she sees is bone-chilling. Cyrus is gone. The hostages sit in perfect silence, positioned exactly as before, as if nothing had ever happened. In the basement, Michael stumbles on a ghastly sight. Kramer is strapped to a chair, his eye sockets hollowed out, bleeding rivers down his face. Barely alive, he begs unseen tormentors not to force him. But suddenly, his hands grab the drill and he drives it straight into his own skull. Upstairs, Leah confronts Ed, demanding answers. The tension spikes when the office phone rings. She snatches it up. Detective Iger is on the line, demanding to speak to whoever's in charge. Calm but ruthless, Leah declares she'll release the hostages in 30 minutes if the police dawn to do anything stupid. Hanging up, she suspects someone tipped the cops. Her eyes narrow on Susan. Dragging the head teller forward, Leah demands answers about the basement. Is it a setup, a trick, or something supernatural? Susan resists at first but finally spills the dark truth. She recounts a bloody incident from 1982. A crazed robber held employees hostage for days. When police refused his demands, he forced them to turn their guns on each other. Since that massacre, the basement has been avoided like a plague. Guards won't even step foot down there. Leah scoffs, refusing to believe ghost stories, and threatens to disfigure Susan if she doesn't confess more. Before she can act, Michael stumbles in, shaking like a child. He blurts out the horrific news: Kramer is dead and something unnatural is in this bank. Leah listens, horrified, just as V barges in carrying a heavy bag. She dumps the cash on the table, triumphant until Leah flips through it. Every bill is dated 1982. The sisters realize they're drowning in something far beyond a simple heist. Leah interrogates the guard, desperate for intel on police tactics outside. But instead of answers, he pleads with her: release the hostages, save yourself, and get out while you still can. Leah ignores him and storms back into the office. But then, something catches her eye. The phone indicator shows an outgoing call. She picks up the receiver and listens in horror. On the line is a patchy, broken male voice, reporting that a robbery is underway at Centurion Trust Bank. It has the exact same plea Detective Iger heard earlier, repeating through time like an echo from the past. Back in the basement, Michael finishes cutting into the sewage pipeline. Just as he's wrapping up, faint cries echo through the shadows, someone begging for help. Rushing toward the sound, he finds a wounded woman sprawled on the floor. But before he can react, her body blackens, her flesh burns away, and she morphs into a charred corpse clawing toward him. Horrified, Michael bolts in terror, barely escaping. Moments later, V comes downstairs and finds Michael splashing gasoline across the corridor. He pleads with her to run and save herself, but insists he won't leave. Shaken, V hugs him tightly before fleeing. Alone, Michael lights the flames, setting the basement ablaze to block the ghosts. But in doing so, he accidentally trips the fire alarm. Upstairs, Ed tells Leah the alarm will force police to storm the bank. He begs her to release the hostages. Against all odds, Leah agrees. She frees Ed, even giving him a knife to cut everyone else loose. Then, clutching the money, she storms down toward the basement despite frantic warnings from the security officer. Seconds later, police burst into the bank, guns blazing. Leah is shot in the leg as she stumbles down the staircase, blood trailing behind her, yet she keeps crawling toward the escape pipe. The freed hostages scatter to safety, everyone except Ed, who lingers strangely, silent and still. Down below, Leah hears Michael's voice and staggers toward the old vault. But the doors slam shut, trapping her inside with the bag-headed ghosts. They swarm around her, snarling and twitching. Just when all hope seems lost, Michael appears, dragging her out at the last second. He urges her to run while he holds the creatures back. Leah makes for the escape pipe, but the masked figure and his ghostly horde ambush her. At the last moment, Michael unleashes his final act of defiance, igniting himself and the entire corridor in a massive explosion. The blast wipes out the ghosts, buying Leah precious seconds to crawl into the pipe and flee. The story jumps to the following day. Leah drives down a dusty dirt road, listening to the news on her car radio. Reports declare that the Centurion Trust robbery ended in a fire that killed all the criminals. Moments later, she pulls over and picks up V, who is waiting by the roadside. Meanwhile, at the police station, Detective Iger continues digging. Reviewing footage, he notices something unnerving. The robbers are clearly visible, but Ed, the man who guided them, is nowhere on camera. Witnesses recall his knowledge of the bank's security system, yet not one of them remembers his name. Susan, who has worked there for a decade, insists she never knew him. Then something clicks. She spots a faded photo on the wall and freezes. It's Ed, she points frantically, insisting he was the man in the bank, but Iger shakes his head. It's impossible. The man in the photo, Ed Mass, was a victim of the 1982 robbery. He was the one who made the desperate call for help before being shot dead in the street. Out on the road, Leah's car sputters and breaks down. As V checks under the hood, a figure suddenly lunges from behind the masked man. He seizes V, dragging her back into the nightmare.